The movie starts as a horde of people have lined up outside a meat shop, which is supposedly selling a never-before-tasted exotic meat. The people are willing to pay any amount for the meat, such as its taste. Days turns into weeks, but the crowd is showing no sign of slowing down, rather it's increasing. Even the policemen and politicians have jumped on to the bandwagon. One day a curious customer finally asks the burning question, which animal does the meat belong to? The male butcher responds that it is pork that comes all the way from Iran. Soon, the word spread in the neighborhood like wildfire, making the shops even more crowded. The butchers, who were once struggling to meet the basic demands, have now started making six figures. Even the large meat factories are forced to go out of business due to the new arrival of this Iranian meat. We are then shown how this meat shop went viral in the first place. Run by passionate butchers, Vincent and Sophie, who also happen to be a couple, the meat shop lies in the outskirts of Paris. At first glance, it looks as if the couple's life is something sailing. However, things are very different internally. The shop hardly attracts any customers, and the ones that eventually come, are repulsed by Vincent's strange massages on the meat. One day, a group of masked vegans activists attack the shop. They throw blood at the couple and trash the place before fleeing. Furious Vincent chases after them and manages to pin one on the ground. After a bit of struggle, he also unmasks the activist. However, the vegan groupmate quickly arrives at the scene and rescues him. Before leaving, they also beat up Vincent, leaving him agitated. Later in the day, the couples visit their friends Stephanie and Mark's home for lunch. In the kitchen, Sophie cries to Stephanie, revealing how the bank refused to give them a loan and that they are going bankrupt. Stephanie initially tries to cheer her friend up but soon starts boasting about how his husband makes good money. It's been revealed that Stephanie and his husband Mark also own a butcher shop that is doing very well. After a while, as the two couples have dinner together, Vincent brings up the incident from earlier, in which his shop was vandalized. First of all, Mark makes fun of him for not installing any security measures, but then, he brings out a rifle and gives it to Vincent. He mentions that the gun is to protect the meat shop from vegan extremists. Vincent does not have a gun license, but he accepts the gift anyway. On their way back home, Sophie tells her husband that she's been thinking of divorcing him as their marriage has become boring. Being the wise man he is, Vincent ignores her completely and soon, he spots one of the vegan extremists that trashed his shop earlier. To teach him a lesson, Vincent puts his car in reverse gear in an attempt to knock him down. However, he loses control and ends up killing the man. Panicked, he proceeds to dial the police and confess it was an accident, but Sophie stops him, fearing a long prison sentence. Instead, she suggests that they should copy a serial killer named Michel Francois who dissected his victims and left them in garbage bags all over the city. Vincent realizes that his wife has been watching too many serial killer shows, but he nonetheless agrees to her idea. At night he places the corpse in his shop and starts butchering it. In the process an ear falls to the ground, and Vincent's dog grabs it up in an instant. After dissecting the body for hours it gets late, so Vincent plans to throw it early in the morning. The next day, he wakes up late and finds the meat missing. As he frantically looks for it, Mrs. Coignard, a regular customer, arrives at the shop. She mentioned that she loved the meat Sophie sold her so much that she is back to purchase more. It turns out Sophie inadvertently sold the human meat to unsuspecting Mrs. Coignard, mistaking it for pork. Taken aback, Vincent tries to persuade her to buy other pieces of meat, but the lady insists she only wants what she was given earlier. As the two go back and forth, Sophie gets intrigued and demands to try the meat. Unable to reveal the truth in front of the customer, Vincent reluctantly passes his wife a piece of human flesh. But to his surprise, Sophie loves it, making Mrs. Coignard even more impatient. At last, Vincent makes up a story that he acquired the meat from Iran and that's why it's so rare and tasty. He reluctantly sells a good chunk of the meat to Mrs. Coignard. As soon as she leaves, he reveals everything to his wife. Surprisingly, Sophie doesn't seem to mind consuming human flesh. Instead, she suggests selling the meat, saying it might be the best way to get rid of the dead body. As expected, Vincent is horrified by her suggestion and gets ready to throw away the meat. However, before he can do so, another customer enters the shop and demands the meat that Mrs. Coignard purchased. Slowly the Iranian meat becomes a sensational in the neighborhood and the couple makes a ton of money after selling it. Seeing the popularity of the product skyrocket, Vincent grows curious and later that night, he takes a piece of that meat home. He hesitantly tries it but to his surprise, ends up loving it. Soon Sophie approaches him and reveals that the vegans have extremely pure blood, and that's why the flesh tastes so good. She then suggests that they should hunt the vegan extremists and sell the flesh to generate more income. However, Vincent shuts her down, saying it's ridiculous and immoral. Before going to bed, he also tells her to stop watching serial kill shows. The next day the couple daughter Chloe brings home her boyfriend, Lucas, for lunch. The family serves him a frenzy steak but he straight away refuses. Turns out he's a vegan and out of the respect for him, Chloe also refuses to eat. After the vegan leave, Vincent and Sophie realize that all the preparations for the family meal have gone to waste due to veganism. This enrages them and Vincent decide to go forward with Sophie's plan to hunt vegans. At night, the couple heads to a vegan restaurant and select owner as their first target. They follow him for a while and Vincent even manages to break into his room with a cleaver. However, at the last minute, he gets cold feet and back out. The first attempt being a total failure, the demanding Sophie feels that they need more practice. Hence, the next day, the couple comes back with an elaborate plan. They pretend to be vegans and protest outside a supermarket to search for a potential vegan target. Eventually a skinny guy walks up to them, praising them for their efforts. Sophie convinces him to meet up later in a parking lot, so that they can discuss vegan stuff. As per the plan, the couple heads to the spot early and rehearses different ways of killing the target. Soon the vegans arrives in a van, but to the couple's dismay he has brought some of his friends as well. Because of this, Sophie and Vincent are forced to abort their plan. After a while the vegan reveal that they are going to raid a meat shop, so they ask the couple to tag along. Afraid of being exposed, Sophie and Vincent reluctantly oblige. Along the way, they lie about their current identities and mention that they are florists. After reaching the destination, the butcher couple realize that the meat shop belongs to their own friends, Mark and Stephanie. Sophie starts doubting the idea, but Vincent, who is clearly envious of his rich friends, enters the shop and start trashing it with the vegans. In the next scene the couple goes to a restaurant to have dinner. There, they discuss ways to hunt down victims without arousing suspicion. However, they disagree over something and soon get into an ugly fight, causing Vincent to angrily storm off. As Sophie sits there alone, a waiter takes advantage of the opportunity and hits on her. Sophie realizes that they have similar interest and after a while, the waiter takes her out on a ride. When they arrives outside Sophie's home, things get romantic, and the two starts making out. However, when Sophie finds out he is a vegan, she purposely bites his tongue, causing it to bleed. She then invites him inside to treat his wound, to which the waiter obliges. While the guy is inside the bathroom, Sophie walks up to Vincent and brief him on the situation. As expected, the latter gets nervous and refuses to do it, but the cunning lady starts blackmailing him, saying that she will sleep with the waiter if he refuses to kill. Upon hearing this, Vincent loses his temper and begins to sharpen the knife. But at last moment, he again chickens out and urges his wife to let the man go. However, Sophie had some plan. She purposely gets the man naked and proceeds to have intercourse with him. This finally riles up Vincent, so he beat the poor man to death. Next day, Sophie gets a call from her friend Stephanie, who tells her about last night vandalism. The butcher couple immediately reach the scene, pretending to be concerned. There they see Mark arguing with a police officer. It turns out he is the same officer investigating the vandalism of Vincent's butcher shop. Afterwards, the officer asks to speak to Vincent privately. Vincent initially panics, but soon, it's revealed that the officer has also heard about the famous Iranian pork and he wants to buy some. Eager to earn more money, Vincent promptly says yes, and later in the day, the couple again sells human meat. Numerous customers lines up for the product and as a result it gets sold out within an hour. They decide to make vegan hunting a regular thing. And with the help of some deadly weapons and sophisticated techniques, they begun a daily killing spree. By the end of the week, they increases the prices of the meat and generate a high profit. One day while on lunch with their friends, the couple brings along the fake Iranian pork, and like the previous customers, Stephanie and Mark also immediately fall in love with the taste. But suddenly, while chewing the meat, Mark bites into something metallic. Stephanie, who is a former nurse, instantly recognizes the object, a pacemaker. It turns out one of the Vincent's victim had a pacemaker installed in their heart. He somehow manages to defuse the situation. But the competition between both of the couple's meat shop initiates an argument which quickly turns into a physical fight. The husbands begins tussling on the ground and all of a sudden, Vincent bites Mark's ear and starts chewing on it. He then spit the ear out, gives Mark a weird look and leaves with Sophie, much to everyone's humor. Sophie and Vincent continue killing human and rake in huge profits. On top of that, their dying marriage is also now saved. One day the couple attends a vegan festival where Vincent notices a little chubby boy. The cannibal can't resist the urge to think of ways to butcher the boy for his meat. Soon, it dawns on Vincent that he has turned into a psychopath. Disgusted with himself, he decides to leave. However, Vincent and Sophie runs into daughter Chloe and her vegan boyfriend Lucas, who is surprised to see them gathering. As they chat, Lucas mentioned that some vegans are disappearing as of late. He is sure that is the work of the butchers. When Vincent tries to refute the assumption, Lucas gets upset. He loses his temper and yells at the butcher couple, compelling them to leave the festivals. Unfortunately, one of the vegan who previously accompanied the couple to Mark's meat shop overhears the fight and gets stunned to find out that they are actually butchers. Outside the festivals, Sophie sets her eyes on a chubby woman and asks her husband to kill her. Sadly, because of the earlier fight, Vincent has regained his vigor to kill people. After finishing the job, they head home. Later that night, as Vincent is butchering the woman, someone knocks the door. Unfortunately, it's the police officer. Vincent warily opens the door and the two starts chatting. The officer revealed that 10 vegans have gone missing and the butcher has become the prime suspect. Suddenly, the cheeky dog appears and walks behind the officer with a human hand in the mouth. Vincent panics, but he quickly sends the dog away by shouting at him. This puzzles the officer and Vincent covers it up with a fake story of him suffering from PTSD since the last vegan extremist attack. Soon, the officer leaves, but Vincent gets a feeling that he is onto them. He shares his concerns with Sophie, but she assures him that they cannot get caught since they have gotten rid of all the bodies and there is no evidence against them. Turns out that Vincent has gotten rid of all the meat of the most recent victims either by selling them or by scattering them around the city in garbage bags. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and the couple find Lucas at the door. He greets them and apologizes for misbehaving with them at the vegan festivals. Lucas explains that he's been stressed since his vegan friends started disappearing. Cunning Sophie comforts him and signals her husband to make Lucas their next victim. However, Vincent refuses and instead escorts the soon-to-be son-in-law to the door. The next day, without consulting with Sophie, Vincent announces to his customers that he will no longer sell any Iranian pork, much to everyone's dismay. This results into an argument between the couple, causing Vincent to leave the shop along with his dog. Meanwhile, the vegan group that destroyed Mark's shows up at Vincent's place to take revenge against them for the betrayal. Sophie tries to send them off but without success. Instead, they tied her up and beat her to a pulp. When Vincent returns from his walk and sees the vans outside, he realizes that something is wrong. Wasting no time, he enters the shop with a cleaver and sees the vegans about to kill his wife. Enraged, Vincent intervenes and with the help of his dog, he murders 2 of them. One vegan manages to impale Vincent in the shoulder, but luckily, Sophie unties herself in the nick of time and finishes him off. Movie ends and the couple are arrested with 30 murder count to their name. Came to be known that Mark and Stephanie are the ones who reported Vincent's odd becomings to the cops, which lead them being caught. They are later imprisoned with death sentences. This brought to an end vegan hunting and consumption of Iranian pork. Thanks for watching on our channel, Movies Recap Hub 24. Please subscribe to help the channel grow and leave the notification button on.